Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. 18 years ago, I was pretty lost in life. I worked at a place called Model Sporting Goods for $6 an hour. When I finally got promoted to the union, I got $6.175 an hour. That's right. So if you worked 80 hours a week, you might just counteract the $12 a week in union dues that you had from that job. There was a job that I had after that, working for a delivery company for Lowe's home delivery, and I got a fever of 102. I took 2 days off, unpaid, mind you, and I got fired for excessive absences. I decided to go work at a small recording studio, and it was one of these kind of like dumpy rehearsal places you could find in Midtown Manhattan, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of opportunity there. So I got a job working at Avatar Studios. Well, not a job, it was an internship working for free. And I remember, I'm going to forget this one moment where I was on the elevator with Chief Engineer Roy Hendrickson, and he asked what I have in my pocket, and I said, it's a Seymour, it's a headphone amplifier that you could also use to power small speakers and an Altoids can. And he was quite interested in the fact that I was 17 years old and this is what I was doing in my spare time. I wound up getting a job there 3 months later, getting a $7.50 an hour, which was an entire 35 cents above minimum wage in New York City at the time, which, man, the reduction assistants and they made $7.15 an hour. I made $7.50 as a tech. I was really elite there. I left because I thought I was always going to be a kid at that particular studio, and I went back to the smaller one. I bet everything on that small place, and afterwards I wound up without a job because they closed right before the financial crisis. The owner of that place was a good dude, but he did everything he could to run his business into the ground. And at one point I went to work at a company called Atlantis. This was a company where it was a sales job, and it was one of those jobs where they have somebody with slick back hair who wrote a book on how he took his life from being a drug addict to now being a successful multimillionaire. And you're here because you don't know what's going on in your life, but if you listen to us, we'll rebuild you in our image. It was obviously some salesmanish bullshit, but I was around 19 years old, completely broke and destitute with all of the prospects that I had for life in the sewer, so I decided to listen to it for a while. And I remember it was one of these kind of bullshit salesy places where he said this out loud. He said, when you walk up to somebody to offer them this, you feel weird, right? You feel like you're out of place. Well, how about this? If there was $100 laying on the ground and you picked it up and handed it to them, would you feel weird? Exactly. Well, that's what you're doing when you sell them our service, which is complete bullshit. It's not what they did at all. It's not what we were selling. The reason they had to have somebody back there with the slick back gelled hair and the book talking about how he made his life better and if you listen to me and do everything that I said, you'll be just like me, is because what they were selling was complete bullshit. It was a horrible product. I worked there for 45 minutes and I never collected a paycheck. After I finally got my license to sell what they were selling, I decided that it wasn't for me. I had my trainer that was talking to me about everything that we were doing, and she told me, once you're done dealing with a customer, you're going to add them to your phone. And I thought, oh yeah, this is so that I could keep track and know who they were and what they bought in case they have a problem with the product or they have any questions, right? And she said, no, that's so that you never answer their phone call again. I said, what? What are you talking about? She said, no, yeah, you're not supposed to answer their call again. You need to move on to selling the next person. I said, what if they have a problem? And I was like, well, they can call this number. So just out of curiosity, I called this number, and this was most of my 45 minutes of employment at this particular company, because for 39 minutes, I could not get to a normal human being. It's literally like every single step of calling this company was designed to get you off the phone as fast as humanly possible so that you would never speak to a human being about the service that you were paying $400 a month for. And that service was healthcare. This was my job at Atlantis Healthcare. And from around October to November is when I got my license in 2008, right before I decided to start this business, when I was at my one of my tipping points in life. And I quit after 45 minutes because that isn't keeping people who are paying a monthly fee every month from having the ability to see their doctor was not how I wanted to be remembered. That's not what I want to do in my life. And it was a good decision, in my opinion. And I have a lot of videos in this channel where I go over my thoughts on insurance in general. And I remember having something called business loss of income insurance a long time ago. It was something where if something occurs that's totally outside your control, that stops you from being able to run your business, they will look at the income that you had during that time. They will see if it fits the covered amount, and then they will pay you out so that you could pay your expenses, your rent, your employees, and everything like that. And there was a particular flood or hurricane in New York City in the autumn of 2012, and this flood resulted in there being no power. There was no electricity in the entire Lower East Side, East Village, West Village. There was no electricity. I run an electronics repair shop that does data recovery services. To repair electronics, you need electricity. Without electricity, I can't do my job. So we filed a loss of income claim because my business was not able to open because I need electricity to fix electronics. And they denied my claim because they said, if you look on page 79 of the contract, this is with the Hartford, one of the many insurance companies you should never do business with. They said that, well, this doesn't cover water damage. So I said, well, as you can see, here are photos. I took videos with my smartphone around the store. As you can see, there's no water in anything during the hurricane, and there was no water inside my store. So I don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't understand. The power plant got flooded. The power plant getting flooded is why it stopped working, which is why you didn't have electricity. It's like, this is the fundamental problem that I have with most forms of insurance, is that insurance is put together in the way where there's the ultimate conflict of interest, which is the person that gets to choose whether or not you are in policy is the person that stands to lose an insane amount of money if you are in policy. Insurance was a great thing, for a very long period of time. One of the primary reasons that we even had the level of trade and exploration that we do today is because insurance companies were open to funding voyages where boats would go around the world to, well, ships more like it, not like a little rowboat, but ships would go around the world to try and find new ports for trading. That's one of the ways that we expanded and found the new world, was the fact that people were willing to fund ships because if something horrible happened, you were covered. Insurance has its places. Unfortunately, one of the things that insurance manages to do is when you are in that vulnerable point in your life when you need insurance, that is when the technicalities come out. That's when the misinterpretation of this clause on page 79 comes out, and that's when you get fucked. A recent example of this is somebody that I care about gave me a phone call because she thought that she was about to die in the middle of a CVS parking lot. This happened actually about a month ago, and she's at the she puked and crapped herself so much that she was completely, utterly dehydrated. Like, she had to have lost at least 10 pounds in this parking lot, and she thought she was going to die. She was, I drove as fast as I could to see what was going on. We called 911. She was taken to the hospital, and her stay was only partially covered because this was not considered by her insurance provider to be a medical emergency. Anthem Healthcare did not think that was a medical emergency. Now, many of you may say, well, obviously, that is a medical emergency. Surely what you just have to do is you have to sign this form or complain to this agency or do this. And yes, you can do all those things. And I assure you, I am doing that right now, regardless of how much time it costs me or money it costs me, because I like fucking with bullies and I like making their lives a living fucking hell, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing to Anthem Healthcare and what I've been doing for the past week and what I'm going to continue to do when I'm done with this video. But the thing with insurance is that you usually need insurance at a time in your life when your life is destroyed. You usually need it when something horrible has just occurred. My house has burned down, so I don't have a place to live. Somebody smashed into my car at 70 miles an hour. So not only have I lost my autonomy and my ability to freedom of mobility, because lots of places in the US do not have public transit worth of shit, but I've also maybe broken my leg. I am not in my state of mind. I am not in my physical state, whether it's because I got smashed into, my house burned down, I have cancer, to be able to fight a fucking insurance company. And they know that. And that's why they make it as difficult as fucking possible to utilize their services. Now I understand that there's always going to be some fraud. And because of there being fraud, because of people looking to get over, there's always going to have to be some sort of checks and balances in place so that it's not very easy. It's not just like, oh, you just XYZ and here's your $100,000, sir, for your policy where you've paid $100 a month for the past 2 years. I get it. Somebody whose blood pressure is 60% their norm, who has almost dehydrated themselves to death, does not have the wherewithal to go through the numerous consumer protection agencies and file a claim in small claims court and go back and forth when they need their credit score right now to be able to do what's necessary to give a proper middle finger to Anthem, the way I will continue to do. But when you are using insurance, it is because of catastrophic loss. Most of the time, when people are filing serious insurance claims, the purpose of insurance originally, serious catastrophic loss. That is a point in your life when you're just going to be less likely to be able to fight an uphill battle. And they know that. They know that. I know why that phone call to get to a single representative at a company whose services I was supposed to sell took 38 minutes. It was by design. It was for the same reason that the person training me told me that any time I add a customer to their roster, I need to add them to my phone so I know to never answer their call again. That's how this industry is. That's who they are. I chose to not be a part of it. I was at the most broke point of my life. I was at the most depressed point of my life. I had no purpose. I had no job. I had no idea what the fuck I was going to do. And the entire economy around me was crumbling. Yay. I did not want to be remembered as somebody responsible for making it more difficult for somebody who's paying their bill every month and doing their job to see a doctor. I can live with that decision. You probably see where this is going. In Manhattan, there was a CEO of one of the largest healthcare providers in the US, and he was murdered. He was shot. And when you read what was on the bullet casings around the area, it is very obvious that it was somebody who shares some of my, and admittedly hundreds of millions of other people's distaste for insurance. Not even just health insurance, insurance in general. The fundamental scam of the idea that the person who chooses whether my claim is paid out is the person who stands to lose financially if the claim is paid out. This is wrong. You can't shoot people in broad daylight. You can't shoot people you disagree with, and you can't shoot people to solve your disputes. That is not the society that I want to live in. I hope the person who did it is found. I hope they are put in prison, and I hope they enjoy spending their life there. Because that's the world that we should live in. We don't want to open that box. That is a bad box to open. At the same time, what has this channel been for the past 12 years? I would talk about random business issues or just stuff that was on my mind. I would show you how to fix boards. I figured out, like, here's why it's hard for me to get parts and schematics and everything. That turned into Apple making repairs difficult. That turned into a broader discussion on right to repair because this applied to tractors and medical equipment and everything else. And then that started to turn into, wait, right to repair is really just this kind of canary in the coal mine for the fact that every company is kind of abusing consumers nowadays. The forced arbitration everywhere, your complete loss of privacy, the idea that General Motors can sell your personal data to insurance companies that then will raise your rates based on information that they had no right to. That was taken away from you. That was roofied away from you by people who will never be held to account. This channel has become a meme. When I sit down at my chair and I go, welcome to today's episode of How You're Getting Effed. I'm your host, Louis Rossmann. That should be a meme, but it is not. It is there because consumer protection in our country is a joke. And more importantly, it's there because enough people have chosen to take the easy way out, to do something that is easy rather than what is easy to live with. To do something that screws over their fellow man rather than do something that makes the world a better place. I don't want to have a channel where every single day I have a video to do where I say, welcome to today's episode of How You're Getting Effed. I'm your host, Louis Rossmann. That's not the world I want to live in. I've advocated for a better world. I've tried to work towards a more repairable world. And in many ways, I have fucking failed. I am not the type of nonprofit director that says, look at all the progress we made this year. Look at all the stuff we're doing, but we can even do more if we get more. No, I'm not going to bullshit you. When my nonprofit runs out of money, I am done. I will close it, and I will happily pass the torch on to people that can hopefully do a much better job than I did, or tried to do, with protecting consumer rights. I'm not happy with what happened to this man. Because the thing there is that the same standard that I want applied to others is the standard that will be applied to me. And if somebody thinks that I screwed them, and that means that they're allowed to shoot me in the street, I don't like that standard. So I'm going to try to apply a standard that I think is a little bit more fair. I do my best to not screw over my customers. I do my best to try and make decisions on, say, you know what? That's a line I'm not going across. You want me to go out of my way to make it more difficult for people that I've sold on your service to be able to contact you if you have a problem. I'm not okay with that. I'm walking away. I had a company from 2010 to 2013 called Rossmann Supply Group. And at the end of that company, there were certain decisions because of finances that I was forced to make like that. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing any of this. The moment that I even had to ask the question of buying like grade A minus shit and then just having some sort of Bliss Computers bullshit on my listing that says, technically the ISO standard says you're allowed to have up to 20 or 50 dead pixels. Like, suck my dick. You know that nobody wants a fucking screen with up to 15 dead pixels, you fucking asshole. I don't want to make those decisions. I don't want to make my fellow tech's lives worse. I don't want to make the world a shittier place. So that's the standard that I would like to hold others to. I don't want to live in a world where when people feel like they've been screwed over, they just walk up to the person that think that screwed them over. And let's be real, United has screwed a lot of people over. And just pop them. That's not something I'm cheering for. What I would like to cheer for is a world where I don't have a channel anymore, where I don't have anything to talk about. I dream of the day where there's nothing for me to discuss, where when I do a 2-month video hiatus because I am busy working on a project that I am about to publish today, actually. This is a fun one. Remember the guide I told you all guys about? Oh, that's the guide. That is the guide. Look at that scroll bar on the right. See that? Look at how slow it's moving, in spite of the fact that the pages are racing by. Yeah, this is going to be getting published alongside the 6-hour-long complimentary video, and then the second part of the 6-hour-long complimentary video. I dream of a world where I don't have anything to talk about, where everything is fixable, where manufacturers are not going out of their way to fuck consumers in the ass, where they are not abusing your right to privacy, where they are not taking people at their most vulnerable moments and trying to screw them out of what it is they bought and paid for. This is something that is going to become more and more important because there are people that are going to disagree with me on the way that you solve disputes. I don't think you solve disputes by shooting people in the street. Unfortunately, others do. And as long as we live in a world where there is enough going on that somebody like me could literally produce 3 videos a day if I wanted to, going, welcome to today's episode of How You're Getting Effed. I'm your host, Louis Rossmann. I fear that this is going to happen more and more often. And as that happens more and more often, maybe the slide is going to change a little bit. Maybe it's not going to be, well, this can happen once somebody has, killed somebody in your family with their corporate malfeasance. Maybe it'll turn into, I didn't get a refund, that you shared information on me that I didn't want shared. I don't want the bar to continue to culturally lower for when people decide that they're going to take actions like this. And I think that requires a collective re-examining of how we run our society with regard, and I'm not talking about some massive change in economic systems or, like the hammer and sickle shit. I'm just like a little bit of basic human fucking decency. You know when you are tricking a customer into signing an agreement that allows their driving information to be sold to Lexus and Exus and insurance companies that will then raise their rates without their knowledge, that you are not making the world a better place. You're making your own pockets a better place, but you're not making the world a better place. And for me, I know that there are going to be people that don't like me. That's obvious. When I Google my own name, the number one threads that show up discussing me are threads where there's hundreds, sometimes over 200 upvotes on people that I've never met or provided services to that are rooting for me to fail and calling me a scammer. But I also know that those are the miserable fucks that just never leave their house. And I know that the work that I do every day, that I put in, is to try and make the world a better place. And oftentimes I succeed. I may not live the life that I would if I had made some decisions that were not making the world a better place. I may have had a little bit more money if I did certain things differently. But I know that when I pass, millions upon millions of people are not going to be saying, I got fucked by that guy's company. Yeah, he's the reason that my sister's credit score tanked 200, and that's why she's not able to get an auto loan or buy her house. Yeah, that's why she did not get surgery, or she tried to avoid it until it was actually stage 4, and now she's dead because she can. We live in a society where it is commonplace and damn near encouraged to screw people. There are forced arbitration agreements on socks, and they opt you into them by sending you an email that often goes to spam. See, when I was younger, you had to sign a contract to be bound to it. But now it's like they send you an email that goes to spam. It looks like spam, but apparently that changed the contract you signed. We need to rethink how consumer protection works in America. And that's not just going to start with the law, because that takes forever, and that's a clusterfuck. If I've learned anything from starting a 501c4 and spending 3 years lobbying for the causes that I care about, it doesn't do what I was looking for. I'll leave it at that. It starts with cultural change. It starts with examining the decisions that we make and waking up and deciding, I am going to try to live the type of life that when I pass, millions of people are not going, fuck that guy, he was an asshole. Because if we don't make those types of changes, we are maybe going to live in that world where that happens more often. I don't want that to happen more often. Once is one time too many, and I hope it doesn't happen again. It's one of the things that made me actually really excited when I was doing this guide. I've been doing YouTube, posting videos since fall 2012. In 12 years of posting videos, I have not had a hiatus as long as I have had since the beginning of October. And it was because the thing that made me so excited to write this is, well, not just all of you that were asking about it. I have my dedication, Mr. Slipperman up here, Tim Gills, rest in peace, sir. It was the fact that I wanted people to feel like they have even some teeny tiny way to push back against the fact that they're constantly getting fucked. Many of you asked me to write this because I've talked about the systems that I run for myself and how I try to rely less on cloud services or as little on them as humanly possible, since many of them are just upfront about the fact that they are taking your data, they're using it for machine learning, they are going to teach AI based on your shit, you have no privacy. What made me excited to do this, and what made me focus on this I rewrote this thing 10 times, refilmed it at least 2 or 3 times to make it as easy as humanly possible for anybody to understand. What made me so excited to do it is just the fact that this may give you the tiniest feeling, smallest, even if it's just fleeting, that you have this little tiny corner of your life where you're just not getting fucked over, where you're not having your content ripped away from you by a service that calls it a purchase, but then on page 21 just claims, ha, lol, gotcha. Oh yeah, I know that they defined the word ownership in the Webster or an Oxford dictionary in the 14th century, but Sony and Discovery get to redefine that, because I was really passionate about making this. I did this at the expense of a college class that I failed, of a relationship that was, well, admittedly kind of, anyway. But I've work, lost a good amount of money writing this thing, just from missed opportunities. But it was so fun and exciting because I know that so many people feel the way that the people that are rooting for what happened, as fucked up as it is, online feel. They feel like they get fucked every single day, and there's no hiding from it. This, I hope, makes people feel like there's a teeny tiny place where they can hide from it, even momentarily. One of the things that I've thought about over the past 2 months that I've had this hiatus is of starting something that I hope maybe has even the teeny tiniest hope of changing this type of thing, which is I wanted to create a wiki similar to this that catalogs every single thing I've discussed in this channel for the past 12 years. So I wanted to have it by product or service, by offense, and by company. So it would be very, very easy, whether it is Hoover denying you warranty on a product where the water on a floor cleaner is designed to flow over the electrical contacts, or whether it is a company taking away right to repair, or whether it's a company selling your personal data to insurance companies so that they can make more money off of the insurance companies paying for the data, which they get by raising your rates. All of this stuff. I wanted to create something that indexes every single thing. Citations, facts, receipts, evidence, administrated or moderated by people I trust, contributed to by the community, going back through all the 2,000 to 3,000 videos I have and taking every single one of those videos and taking them and adding them to this so that it's easily indexable and you could see it. And creating something that maybe someday a company, you never know, maybe it could get big enough that a company thinks, oof, I don't want to be on that list because being on that list means I actually lose money. It's something I've thought about seriously, and it's something that I want to put effort into, but I also have to kind of go back to my life, because for the last 2 months while I was writing this, I kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a bit. That's about it. If you don't want this to happen more often, what I would ask, I would beg of you, try to live the type of life where when you die, millions of people are not saying, that person fucked me. Because if we don't make that decision to do that, this will happen again. I don't want it to happen again. Because what I root to happen to other people is what will eventually happen to me. Something to think about. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.